Welcome back to The Whole Home. This is a personal family life catch-up episode because we're making some changes and I wanted to let you in and give you the backstory. I'm Kezia and my goal on the internet is to make lower footprint, sustainable family living feel less complicated and a bit more budget friendly. That's what we normally talk about, but I wanted to bring you into some changes we're making about our kids and education, why we are deciding what we are deciding, how long we're doing it for, why we're approaching it this way, what it's looking like so far, and all of those questions. So grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, or put this on just to listen while you're doing whatever you're doing. And we're going to talk about our journey, choosing to educate our kids a little bit differently from how we have been thus far. And while we're here, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, or anything you want to, or that little bell to choose how you get updates. I feel like there's so much to say and so many disclaimers I want to give, but the one I will give at the start is whenever it comes to anything about kids, it can bring a lot of comparison and judgment often. And we all really are trying to do the best things with what we have available for our kids. And I think really that's the goal for life, to do our best with what we each have available. And that looks different for everyone. So what I'm about to unpack is our journey of looking at the choices, the options, the different things that we have available, and our journey of trying to figure out what is best for our family within what we have available. But that is going to look different for everybody. And I am so aware of that because, as you will see, this is really all a test and a trial, what we are doing. And that's disclaimer number one. Let's backtrack. We have 3 kids. They're currently 2, 6, and 8. So I have 2 kids of school age. And I remember, I think when we had 1 kid, we were walking, we lived in California, and we used to go up to this little town, Ashland, for date weekends. And I remember walking there and going, how are we going to educate our kids? And really, we both wanted our kids to go to school. Both me and my husband went to schools, different schools along the way, but that was really what we knew of education. We both loved school. It worked out well for us academically. So that was how we started off wanting to educate our children. At that time, we lived in California and we were ready to send our son to a brilliant school in California that we loved when we made the decision kind of last minute to move to the UK for my husband's schooling or university, his post-grad studies. So we then decided actually to delay a year and not send him because it felt like a lot to move countries and schools. And so my son entered the school system right in the middle of COVID in 2021 when school looked like being in a building, but also being at home. It was great. We still had a really great experience. We have loved school these last 4 years. We love what it's teaching our children. We love the values that it's instilling. We love the community. We love the head teacher. We love everything about school. Then if you watched my previous, I don't do these little catch-up episodes very often, but I did one last summer. I'll pop it here, although it's kind of irrelevant now, but my husband got a job to work in Germany. I got a 6-month post as a visiting professor in a university in central Germany. We thought we'll all go, we'll travel on the weekends, I'll homeschool the kids during the week, he'll teach, and we'll have this fun European adventure. Well, that got cut short when we realized you actually can't homeschool in Germany. Once your kids are 6, they have to be in the public school system. Just looking at my kids, I felt like it wasn't going to be a good idea to short-term throw them into school that was German speaking without having that language. We sent Jared off. We did 6 months living in different places and the kids stayed in school. Well, we realized that getting that experience of educating our kids out of a school environment was actually something that was important. And I began to feel like for me, to be diligent about choosing their education, I needed to know both options before we made the decision to keep them in school. After a lot of conversations and some tears and really trying to figure out what the best thing to do is, we decided that we would trial home education for half a term. And so that is what we are trying for this half of term from May, end of May, through till the end of the summer term, which in England for state schools is the end of July. We decided we would try home education. I don't know if this is what we will stick with, but we felt like half a term of trying this model would give us a bit more insight to be able to make a more balanced decision going forward for our family on what we really think the best choice is. While we really have loved our school, there is the potential that we will go back. We'll talk more about that and some different options there. Over the last year, I have begun to have moments that have pushed me towards wanting to see the other side. It's not just, I wonder, there's two different ways to do this. There have been some moments that have really pushed me towards wanting to see what the other side could look like and if it would be better for our family. And one of the massive ones is schedule. And I know life with kids is just packed. Watching the way that a really packed schedule affected our family, when you add school and extracurricular and social and spiritual and all the different pieces of life and the ways that we want to build our kids, as well as actually having enough downtime to be kids and play, I felt like 24 hours in a day was just not enough. And I kept looking at the schedule and going, what can we take out? And we don't have our kids in a ton of sporting and extracurricular activities. I feel like we have them in a really good balance, but we are constantly rushing from one thing to another to another. And I, at this point in parenting, wanted to look and go, is this the way it needs to be? Is this how we want to live life for these years, constantly looking 3 days ahead and planning everything out and scheduling and packing bags ahead of one day because we need it at the end of the next day tomorrow, but there'll be no time to pack a bag. And I know in a way that is just what life with kids looks like, but it just made me go, I want to explore if there's another option. And when we looked at what we could take out of life and still raise balanced kids, it felt like maybe school was the thing that we needed to pause and see if taking those hours out of the day and all the hours in the car for school, if that was a key to balancing life better for them and for our family. In that, I wanted to see them have more time for rest and play that I think is so valuable for children. And there were a couple of marking moments for me where I pulled them in from doing things that felt really creative and brilliant for them to be doing, to say, get your clothes on, we've got to go to school, or we've got to get to this club with a schedule to stick to, stop playing. And part of me just went, this is so wrong. Is there a different way to do this, or is this the best way? And then in late winter, I had been building some garden beds, and my son had been so invested in building them with me, my 8-year-old boy, in filling them and putting the cardboard on the bottom. And he'd been so invested, and he would get home from school and race out and say, can we do the next bit on the beds? And then for some reason with schedule, I had to fill the beds while he was gone. And I knew he's going to be so sad that he missed this part, but I've got to do it because of different things happening. I've got to get this done now. And so I filled these beds with soil while he wasn't there. It just made me go, is this the best way that I have my kids somewhere else while there's brilliant educational, important life skill activities that they could be doing here at home that I'm having them miss out on, and they're feeling sadness on because they're in school? And I don't know is the answer. And he came back from school that day and he raced out, did you do it? And there was a sadness that he had missed this home experience. Now, there are pros and cons of any choice. We all miss things in life. So it wasn't just, he missed out on something at home. It was this ongoing feeling that there were these educational experiences and life experiences at home that I was having to cut out of my kids' life because our schedule was so hectic. And it doesn't mean the answer is educating the kids at home, but it just made me want to know, is there a different way to play our schedule? Could educating them at home be a better option? And I didn't know. And that led to, we're going to try it out. My son also found the transition from Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 2, so going from being 7 to 8 in school, he started coming home and saying, Mom, I'm sitting down all the time and it's hard. And it's something I hadn't really thought about, and we talked with the teacher and she said that just is, at some point, they have to learn to sit in a seat all day. And that, combined with watching them at home, learning in the home environment, being active, working with their hands, playing, exploring, using their imagination, it just made me go, is sitting in a seat for 6 hours a day when he's finding that hard the best option? Now, the answer is maybe. Maybe when we balance the pros and cons, learning to sit in a seat is the best thing for him to do. But again, it just all led to this picture of me going, I think we need to trial this early on in their education to be able to make an informed decision about what is the best for our kids and our family. Practically in the UK, while in Germany, home education is not an option. In the UK, it is an option. From the age of 5, kids have to be in full-time education. But in the UK, it's not hugely specified what that has to look like. It can be in school, it can be part-time in school, it can be full-time out of school, it can be unschooling, but all that you really have to be able to say is that your kids are getting a full-time education. So you have to let different authorities know if you're going to pull them out of school, and they want to see a plan of what you are going to be doing. And I think depending on what they see in that, you will get visits and be checked up on. But it really is actually quite a scarily, maybe simple process to pull your kids out of school. In doing this for me, I knew that watching my kids, they love learning. While my son didn't love the sitting down, they both love learning in a traditional way. And so looking at that and who I am, I knew I am not about to create lessons for them. I'm not a teacher. That is not my training. I want to take a plug and play curriculum that I can use, that is proven, that is research-based, where they can get lessons. And it is plug and play so that my kids can have a good education, and then I'm not compromising in academic quality for having them at home. That was really important to all of us. So I chose a curriculum that was largely off a screen, and that also was not costing us a lot of money. So this is the other part. In England, there is no provision for homeschooling. So there's no financial assistance with homeschooling. And there are some organizations that give free access and different things to home educating families, but there is no government assistance with homeschooling financially. We knew this needed to not be wildly more expensive than school. So obviously we've got things like the cost of school uniform, the cost of going on school trips, the cost of charging our car to drive 2 hours a day for school runs. There are some costs that we will reap back, but there also will be costs that we put in. So we're trialing a curriculum this term that we could get for free, and then that will enable us to make hopefully a choice if we decide to go forward on whether we like it or not. But then on top of the curriculum, we can then add in other things. In our first week of homeschooling, we harvested potatoes and weighed them and looked at the weight of potatoes that we got and how they grow, and we cooked them up. My son has decided he wants to be a chef, and so the first day that we were home, he made bread start to finish by himself. We were planning in some trips to see different places and learn through museums, which we don't have local to us. We have to travel to London to get more of those things. But this gives us the freedom to go and get those educational experiences in a different place. It also means we can lean a bit more into what the kids need in terms of more sleep, more rest, more independent play and creative time, and feel like we're flowing more with what they need, which I felt like we really weren't doing in school, especially for one of my kids, definitely to their detriment. They needed processing time and alone time, and to be able to process emotions, and I had to take that away for the pace of school. That felt really detrimental. So this is allowing more freedom of flowing, keeping structure and schedule. I think that's really important for our family, maybe all kids, definitely my kids, but also having just a small level of flexibility that means we can really listen to their needs and roll with that. A lot of people have said, wait, how is this going to affect your life? And it is going to affect my life. I will have kids home the whole day. My husband is here too during the day, most days, but he also works, but it means we get to have lunches together, or he can take them during his lunch break and I can do something. It's removing 10 hours of my week that we're in the car for the school run. So that's a big factor, and we will be learning for about an hour and a half. When we've been doing the curriculum, it's about an hour and a half for me to sit with each kid and do their work and guide them through it. It's about an hour and a half. So actually, I'm net better off in time for myself just when you take out the school run and put in the learning around the table, which is wild to me, but that is those numbers. So we will see. Obviously, I lose a freedom. There's things I can do with a toddler during the week that I can't do with a 6 and an 8-year-old. But equally, I want to make family life work in the best way possible. And sometimes the 3 of them will play together independently better than a 2-year-old will play on her own. So sometimes that actually gives me more freedom to do tasks or to give them reading time, and I can get a bit of something done. So we will see. And that really is why this is a trial. I don't know. I may come crawling back to the school and say, can we come back? In England, you also have the option for Flexischooling. So Flexischooling is not a right like education is. You don't have a right to Flexischool, but you can bring this up as a conversation with your head teacher. And this is a conversation we have had with our head teacher, and maybe it could be a really positive route forward for our family. But in Flexischooling, if your head teacher feels like it's a good fit, the child can go to school part-time and be home part-time. So that is another option that is there. Our school was open to trying it out, and so that may be something we do, but we wanted to fully see what it looked like to do the whole thing at home first and get a picture of that and just learn for our family. Our weeks are looking like sitting around the table in the morning, starting about 9:30 and doing an hour and a half of curriculum. We're doing all the things that they would be doing in school in terms of phonics and writing and maths and geography and history and science around the table, predominantly off screens with a little bit of screen or audio interaction. And we do that for about an hour and a half. I have a toddler who is very happy to sit at the table and color, or I can give the kids little bits of independent bits to do, and then I can go and do something with the toddler. We're figuring out what it looks like, but doing that in the morning. And then in the afternoon, they will do some independent play, some independent reading, and then we can add activities around that. This coming week, we're going to London for a day. We're going to walk and draw London. We're going to visit a museum and learn through that. And they're going to do a lot in the garden and look at growing and harvesting and plant a lot of seeds and look at seed growth, which is just part of life, but there's a lot of learning to be had there alongside the curriculum that is everything that they need to do. It feels strange to me to love school, to cry a little bit leaving the school, but also to be trying this out. But I just felt like what diligent parenting looked like for me in this moment of life. And thus far, in the last 4 years, that hasn't felt like what diligence as a parent looks like. We've happily sent the kids to school. We have loved it. And that has felt like the right choice. But then that changed and we feel like it looks like something a little bit different to be diligent and to explore. So this is the journey that we are on. And you can follow along. I will do some updates on how this is going and how we're finding it. I don't know. And the goal is that by the end of this term, in the next 6 weeks, we really know what it looks like to do this. But my kids will be more present at home and that will be visible online. And so I wanted to open up this journey that we're on. If you have questions, please leave them below. I don't know if I will know the answers, or if you have experiences or tips, please, I would love to know what those are. Drop a comment below, a question or experience that you have or anything like that, and I would love to have that there for me and anyone else watching this video. If you want to stick around and watch more of what we talk about usually and why I'm on the internet, there are a few videos here. This is a playlist of food budgeting and planning for sustainable organic food on a budget. And YouTube will put here the video it thinks that you would most like to watch next from our library. And then again, you can hit subscribe and you will see everything we put out on lower footprint family living, apparently now with a touch of what it's like to educate our kids at home.